No. Anyway, welcome. Thank you very much for coming to the 2024 Plummer Legion Memorial Day event. So if you look in your invoice, must be at work today, sorry. If you look at your program, you'll see some asterisks next to a few things, and it indicates to please stand. I'll also ask you to please stand as well. So I guess we'll start things out that way. If you'd please stand. We'll have the presentation of colors. Post the colors. Colors are posted. Color guard. And salute. 2. Take your post. Chaplain, if you would, give her an invocation.
O God of our nation and men, we pause to acknowledge your power over our lives. Instill us in our hearts the desire to serve our community in such a way as to ensure freedom, further justice, and encourage democracy. We ask your blessing on this Memorial Day service and to look with favor upon the hearts of those gathered here to pay tribute to those who made the final sacrifice. For the benefit of all free men and everywhere, may all that is said and done in the service today be pleasing in your sight. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. And now we'll have the placing of the wreaths. Past Commander Gagner and Alice Jobe from the auxiliary. And we'll have the Star Spangled Banner by Aaliyah Jewell and her mother, Mindy Carlson.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, ladies. Can everyone go ahead and sit down? Now, good morning. Thank you again for coming to our program. We'll get this We'll get this going with the opening message and Memorial Day message. I had the opportunity about a month ago to go to Germany and was able to take a couple of World War II tours, one of which was the Dachau concentration camp. You know, I've watched many documentaries on World War II and the atrocities that took place there, but you have to really be in the confines of one of the camps and actually walk in the people's steps to just imagine the hell that they went through. Dachau was one of the first concentration camps and was used as a testing facility that other camps were built and run by. There was 23 main concentration camps across Europe, and it's estimated there was over 1,000 satellite concentration camps and of the like that were attached to those 23 main camps. The original purpose was to imprison those that opposed the Nazi party. Later they were used as labor camps to support the war effort, and later after that they were used in the extermination of Jews, homosexuals, the mentally and physically handicapped, and anyone else they felt wasn't worthy. The forced laborers that couldn't work anymore due to starvation and disease had just become a liability, so they were marched to the death camps as well. Number of people that were murdered in these camps will never be known for sure, but they estimated upwards of 17 million people, largely based on their ethnicity. In Dachau alone, the official estimate was 41,500, but after finding additional documentation, they estimate it was at least double that. Toward the end of the war, there was over 700,000 prisoners still left in these camps that were liberated. Unfortunately, many of the people were so sick, malnutrition, they never survived to return home to their families. Our troops fought and many died liberating these camps. They fought and died to protect the world from Nazi Germany and the spread of communism. They have fought countless battles in many different wars to protect the freedoms of the lands they were fought in, and ultimately our own freedoms. It's not just those frontline troops we owe our thanks to, though. They didn't do it alone. They couldn't fight on empty stomachs, so think of the cooks that kept them fed. They couldn't fight without ammunition, so think of the transportation troops that hauled the supplies to the front lines. Think of the supply troops there would be no supplies to take to the front lines. Think of the logistics troops and the clerks, medics, nurses, everyone else that played a role in a fight, even if they never got shot at. It couldn't happen without everybody doing their jobs. Even in war, everyone is needed to keep the peace. So we should all remember each and every veteran because they all played a part keeping our country safe. I didn't rewrite this so the print's small. Again, our nation is assembled to honor its heroic dead. 1,000 battles of land, sea, and air echo the glory of their valiant deeds. Under the quiet sod or beneath the murmuring waves, their bodies sleep in peace. But in the destinies of veterans, their souls go marching on. Because of them, our lives are free. Because of them, our nation lives. When we recall the things they did, the heroes' host seem mighty in our midst. When we recall the things they did, the hero hosts seem mighty in our midst. When peril threatened and their country called, with what divine self-sacrifice, they left their paths of peace to spring up to arms, to make their breasts a barricade against the nation's foes. No sorrow for loved ones left behind could dim the purpose of their souls. No weariness of march and watch could keep them from their heart's desire. No horror of the field or sea or air could beat their courage down. They fought for us they fell. Now with one accord and deepest reverence we do them honor. Let us not remember them in anguish. They would not wish our pity. For their sakes also let us not forget the loved ones left behind. Our tears or words of sympathy cannot bring back the comfort of those loving hands, nor the music of the voices still. Only the solemn pride to have given more than all the rest is theirs, who live to weep. But all the world, because of what they gave, is indebted to them. Comrades, on this Memorial Day, let us pledge ourselves anew to patriotic service. Let us make ourselves the friend and brother, son and father of those who will not see their own again in mortal flesh. Let us grasp with fearless hands the flag so no born before, and, like those others, plant it always in battlements of righteousness. All who stand with us today, you will not consecrate yourselves with us to emulate the sacred service that those who rest in heroes' graves may not have died in vain. Let us stand in bowed heads for a solemn memory of our heroic dead. Chaplain, if you would, the benediction.
May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord hold his countenance upon you and give you his peace from this day forward. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaplain. Sergeant at Arms, salute the dead. Please have a seat. We'll now have the reading of our honored veterans.
Thank you so very much, everyone. Thank you, Commander. We will do our best to kind of remember those that have gone before us and recognize those that we know that we should recognize as an American Legion post. And as we read the names of our Memorial Day heroes, and you recognize the name of a family member or a friend, please reflect on the sacrifice that each of these soldiers have made, giving us our freedoms. And so in memory, we will start with reading the names, and from the Plummer Catholic Cemetery, the Auxiliary.
St. Vincent de Paul Cemetery, Catherine Bernier, Matilda Duran, Monica Fallon, Jan Freitag, Barbara Girardi, Margaret Greenwald, Ann Jager, Helen Jager, Nadine Johnson, Bertha Lemieux, Terry Maney, Dagny Pollen, Anna Raywards, Elizabeth Wisterman, Martha Walker, Tekla Willett.
From the American Legion, Frank Berg, Jerome Bernier, Roger Bernier, Benny Carpenter, Joe Fallon, Albert Fisher, Joe Fisher, who was a merchant marine, Walter Girardi, Howard Greenwald, Omar D. Gilmet, Omar O. Gilmet, Edmund Hemley, James Jackson, Larry Killian, Joseph Jager, Matt Jager, Nick Jager, Alvin Johnson, John Maney, Leroy Maney, Henry Monin, Raymond Parody, Vern Parody, Wilford Raberts, Emil Singer, Leonard Singer, Gerald Toulouse, Lowell Toulouse, Cornelius Van Lith, Jeffrey Van Lith, Bruce Walker, Delmaine Walker, George Walker, Leslie Walker, Martin Walker, Patrick Walker, Rex Walker, Robert Walker, Jim Willett, and Joseph Willett. From the Emertville Lutheran Cemetery,
Clara Anderson, Vivian Cleland, Sheila Erickson, Asta Fossum, Darlene Freiholtz, Helen Hansen, Clara Hemley, Hilma Hempstead, Clara Hess, Winifred Burstead Johnson, Marie Kella, Arlene Kelly, Bernice Lafayette, Josephine McCready, Ethel Milligan, Dorothy Myrie, Ragnar Norby, Minnie Peterson, Sylvia Peterson, Sigvi Johanna Radell, Charlotte Polly Sherban, Oster Westerlund, Anna Wickstrom.
and from the Legion, Burton Amundsen, Clarence Anderson, Thomas Broughton, Burton Carlson, Eugene Carpenter, Matt Christensen, Albert Doye, Floyd Fredrickson, Ronald Freiholtz, Bruce Fritz, Henry Froyland, Philip Froyland, Terry Griffiths, Oscar Hamram, Harold Hansen, John Hempstead, Art Johnson, Henry Morris Johnson, Laverne Capadol, Elson Lafayette, Howard Lafayette, Oli Matson, Jimmy Meyer, Lawrence Mickelson, Don Nelson, George Nelson, Willard Nelson, Lester Norby, Thomas Norby, Vern Noterman, August Peterson, Lawrence Peterson, Leonard Peterson, Walter Riddell, Erwin Seibel, Leroy Stoney Shervin, Roger Shervin, Paul Tillman, Wayne Tronis, Leroy Westerlund, Roy Westlake, Gus Wickstrom, Oscar Wickstrom, Bert Wright, William Wright. From the Brooks Catholic Cemetery,
St. Joseph's Auxiliary, Vera Aslan, Veronica Boucher, and Gabby Marcel.
and from the American Legion, Stephen Aslan, Oviedo Berry, Leonard Bushy, Frank Burgess, Francis Bradley, Daniel Brueggemann, Eugene Brueggemann, Frank Brueggemann, Lloyd Brueggemann, Larry Brueggemann Sr., Richard Brueggemann, Albert Bruno, Sheldon DeLage, Victor A. Doe, Paul Doye, Richard Dugstead, Laverne Felling, Thomas Gagne, Gilbert Jenricks, Lawrence Gerard, Benjamin Harry Hallis, Duane Hintz, Bryce Jasper, Valerian Val Korlowski, James LeBlanc, Alfred Mayer, James McDonald, Averill Mercill, Lloyd Mercill, Alvin Morin, Lawrence Mornville, Joe Nice, Russell Noyes, Lester Olson, Bernard O'Malley, Donald Page, Harvey Page, Morris Page, Ronald J. Parody, Tony Payment, Raymond Paris, Ronald Peterson, Julian Poirier, Ambrose Reese, Roger Riel, Stanley Rezevi, Boyd Sabrin, Leroy J. Sabrin, Paul Stahl, Roy Thiebert, Luger Tugas, Regis Tugas, Frederick Tupin, Napoleon Varon, Floyd Wilson, and Dwight Brueggemann. And from the Brooks Presbyterian Cemetery,
Naomi Altoff, Karen Fossell, Clara Helly, Navy, Willadine Katsky, Hetty Matson, Donna Paulin, and Ruth Wilkins. From the Legion,
Arnold Arlt, August Burke, Alan Fossell, Ed Greenwald, Arthur Hagee, Henry Hagee, Alan Hansen, John Helly, Lyle Johnson, Walter Katsky, Fred Keeler, Herman Mayer, Russell Paulin, Milo Parsley, Fred Stahl, Paul Wilkins. And from the Finnish Lutheran Cemetery,
Amelia Escalay, Navy, Fern Escalay, Lane Escalay, Rosemary Escalay, Alma Hansen, and Jean Mott. From the Legion,
Lawrence Carpenter, Edward Escalay, Edwin Escalay, Craig Escalay, Leo Escalay, Martin Escalay, Melvin Escalay, Arthur Hansen, Orlando Horn, Roger Hughes, Russell Huteri, Jean Capella, George Capella, Olive Capella, Robert Capella, Wiljo Capella, Andrew Kella, Buford Lawson, Herbert Mott, Eddie Matson, Roger Matson, Rhino Ray Ninonen, Frank Nurmi, Roy Roman, Merle Wedger. From the Ebenezer Lutheran Cemetery,
Elizabeth Pugh.
and from the Legion, Bernhard Ralsted, Kenneth Dahl, Canute Evenson, Oli Myram, Vedador Myram, Joanne Wedul, who's with the Women's Army Corps, Morris Nelson, Alex Neslin, Alvin Olson, Arthur Olson, Eddie Olson, Thomas Pugh, Oscar Royslin, Thomas Royslin, Elma Solberg, Orville Stennis, Miles Swanson, Clarence Sertveit, Jorgen Sertveit, Vernon Wedul, Dennis Wild, Leslie Wild.
Clearwater Lutheran Cemetery, Elna Brecky, Lee Halverson, Lily Halverson, Clara Johnson, Mary Johnson, Lily Lee, and Idella Peterson.
And from the Legion recognition, Donald Brecky, Wilmar C. Brecky, Patrick Calkins, Delano Halverson, Nels Halverson, who was a Civil War veteran, Clarence Johnson, Russell Johnson, Duane Nelson, Walter Peterson, Nels Ralstead, Joe Tishart, Paul Wicks.
The Clara Cemetery, Stella Erickson, and Alta Peterson.
And from the Legion, Emil Christofferson, Elmer Eriksson, Helge Larsson, George Peterson, Herbert Peterson, Lowell Tom Peterson, Stanley Rose, and William Billy Peterson. Okay, from the St. Francis Xavier Cemetery in Oakley, Minnesota, only Legion members are listed. And from the Legion, Willard Bergeron, Robert Bob Blumke, Joseph Boucher, Robert Hintz, Kenneth Lassard, Steve Paquin, Raymond Buster Wicks.
The St. Peter's Cemetery, Gentilly, Jean Escalay.
And from the Legion, Rain Escalay. From the Oak Grove Cemetery in Red Lake Falls,
Fern Hess, Doris Mowitz, Myrtle Mowitz, Doreen Nord, Harriet Hess Norman, Helen Simpson, Jolene Simpson, Arlene Zimpel.
and from the American Legion, Donald Hess Sr., Floyd Hess, Ivan Hess, William Simpson, Alvin Westerlin, Duane Zimpel. And from the St. Anthony Cemetery, Terrebonne,
Mary Ann Gagne, Eleanor Liskey, Crystal Martell. And from the Legion,
from the American Legion is Harvey Gagne, Warren Walt Martell, Raymond Novak, Ernest Parody, Mark Parody, Tom Parody. And from the Greenwood Cemetery in Thief River Falls, the Legion members, William Bothman, Jesse Ducamp, Larry Ness, and Dick Dalzell. And veterans that are buried elsewhere. Ingval Berg, Oregon, Wilmanberg, Oregon, Leonard Brecky, Oak Ridge Cemetery in Pennington County, Brett Bushell in Hacksaw Creek, Montana, Keith Demra, Oakdale Cemetery in Crookston, Marvin Ingesether, Calvary Cemetery in Winger. George Erickson, Grand Forks, North Dakota. Arvo Escali in Nashwauk, Minnesota. Leonard Countryman Fair in Franklin, Wisconsin. Thomas Fallon at the Veterans Cemetery in northern Indiana. And Francis Frank Ford, St. Joseph's Catholic Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Harold Gitsky, Bethany Cemetery, Thief River. Lawrence Granum, Fort Ripley. Merle Gustafson, St. Hilaire Community Cemetery. Harvey Hansen, Los Angeles VA Cemetery, California. Roy Hansen, Holt, Minnesota. Gust Hadeen, Asphalt Lutheran Cemetery, Foston. Stanley Hofstede, Salem Cemetery, Oakley. Bill Hull, Salt Lake City, Utah, and Bill Hull, World War I veteran. Duane Howard at the National Cemetery, Fort Sam Houston, Texas. Merle Jesme, Oak Grove Cemetery, Newfoundland. Bert Johnson, Forest Hill Cemetery, International Falls. Arvid Kella in Duluth, Minnesota. Keith Butch Cruz, Grand Rapids, Minnesota. Ted Lacasier, St. Joseph Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Michael LaFave in Nevada. Douglas Maney, Arizona. Hank Ninonen, Wisconsin. John Ninonen, Chicago, Illinois. Harold Norby, elsewhere. James Norby, New Hampshire. Robert Page, Prior Lake, Minnesota. Robert Parody, Little Rock, Arkansas. Ernest Peterson, Evergreen Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Dean Shenor in Arizona. Clarence Sletton, elsewhere. Tom Smith, Calvary Cemetery in St. James, Minnesota. Virgil Sorensen, Salem Cemetery, Oakley, Minnesota. Kern Tillman, Fairhaven Cemetery, Santa Ana, California. Jerome Toulouse, Sacred Heart Cemetery, Sauk Rapids. Walter Toulouse, Sacred Heart Cemetery, Sauk Rapids. Norbert Van Lith, buried in California. Henry Weiss Jr., Emmanuel Lutheran Cemetery in Wiley. And Ray Westerland in Newfoundland, Minnesota. Victor Wickstrom, Harold Wickstrom, buried elsewhere. And Robert Wright in Aurora, Minnesota. Auxiliary members buried elsewhere.
Judy Ingesether, Calvary Cemetery, Winger. Evelyn Erickson, Agnes Geske, Bethany Cemetery, Thief River Falls. Becky Jesby, Oak Grove Cemetery, Newfoundland. Alexine Lacasher, St. Joseph Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Irma Normandin, Calvary Cemetery, Crookston. Dorothy Peterson, Evergreen Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Marjorie Chenor, Arizona. Inez Norby Turbo, Gringe, New Hampshire. Esther Walter, Evergreen Cemetery, Red Lake Falls. Anna Wickstrom McCook, Navy, Texas National Cemetery, Dallas, Fort Worth.
And now we would like to recognize and remember those who died in conflict. Conrad Berg, Henry Berg, Roger Bernier, Karsten Fossum, Vernon Groom, Willard Malwitz, Raymond Martin, Henry Nelson, Lester Norby, John Noyes, Marlon Priebe, Llewellyn Pugh, and Gus Wigstrom.
Fort Snelling Cemetery, Lorraine Hoven and Florence Norby.
And at Fort Snelling, for the Legion, Henry Althoff, Conrad Berg, Henry Berg, Carson Fossum, Kenneth Hoven, James Jager, Swanda Kellogg, Robert Laniel, Marlon Matheny, and Leroy Norby. This is the recognition that we would like to remember and give all of those who went before us. I know it gets lengthy, but for those of us who really care about the future that we want to continue with freedom in our country, it's very important to recognize who've gone before us so that we may continue to be able to do this memorial recognition annually. Commander Jerome.
Thank you very much. So before, hang around after we retire the flag, have some special acknowledgements, and then that'll be closing our program. So we'll have the retirement of colors. Everyone please stand. Retire the colors. Colors are retired. Hand salute. 2. Color guard dismissed.
Go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Please go ahead and sit down. Just a couple of special acknowledgments here. First and foremost, I'd like to thank God for another day in which to be a service to Him, our nation, and our community. I'd like to thank all the Legion members in uniform this morning for being part of the service. I'd like to thank all the veterans for their service to this great country. I'd like to thank all the families of veterans for they also made sacrifices. I'd like to thank Past Commander Roy Holmes for setting up the memorial in the park area. Unfortunately, it was too wet to use it today, but it looks good like it does every year. I'd like to thank past commanders Chuck Simpson, David Escalay, Clarence Gagner, and past Vice Commander Jeff Engelsether for placing flags at the local grave sites of our veterans that have passed. So every time you go by and see all those little flags, those 4 gentlemen are the ones that were out there doing it. I'd like to thank Deanne Escalay for cooking the food that will be available after the program today, and also thank the Ladies Auxiliary for serving that meal, and like to thank Sherry Olson for showing up on her day off and opening the bar for us. Yeah, we'll have lunch will be served right over here, free will offering, and that's the end of the service. So thank you very much for coming.